Good evening, sir. Thank you for a really nice lecture. I have a couple of questions. One is the first question that what you mentioned that these rivers, we know that these are the rivers mentioned in the Rigved, but from where is that data got that these are the rivers? I mean, the name of this is actually, wo Rigved mein ye tha. Where is that data given? I mean, was it your analysis or it's mentioned somewhere? That is the first question. Second question is again relating to Ramayana, that when we talk of the Godavari, so I mean, I'm sure it's not the Godavari of the Nasik. So what is that Godavari river?
Yes. So that Godavari is a subject of the book Geography of Ramayana, but since you asked, I will mention about it. But first, I will say how do you identify that Rigvedic there are certain names. How you identify that with the existing river names?
Right.
So the answer is because see for example, the Rigveda just talks about rivers and just leave it. But there are bhashyas. Like first of all, the most important text is that the Rigveda has got commentaries of many ancient figures. Yaska had authored Nirukta, so some information you get from there. And then you have many other commentators who are giving explanations or interpretations to the verses in the Rigveda. So you have a kind of a later literature which gives some information which is like it's a connecting link between whatever is understood in Rigveda versus what is understood in a later period. And China is a very good example for that. But of course, they also have, they are not looking at it from a geography point of view. So only some bits and pieces of information you get it. But then you have Brahmanas and Aranyakas, which are like again expand the understanding of the Rigveda that contains some information. And one more thing, the Idihasas, which are like kind of a continuity of the Rigvedic period, somewhat by the end of the 10th Mandala, whatever happened is captured in the Ramayana and Mahabharata. So there also the river names are mentioned. So I'll give one example. Wherever the Rigveda mentioned the Sududri river, exactly in the same place, based on the whatever narrative we have in the Mahabharata, their place is Shadadri. So the location matches, that is Sududri, whatever is Sududri mentioned in the Rigveda, mentioned as Shadadru in the Mahabharata. And when you look at for the geographical clues, the Rigveda is placing it between Saraswati and this other the river, that is the Chenab river or Asikni or Chandrama or even Sindhu, for example. So both rivers are very familiar. So location wise, it is matching, name wise also matching. So Sadadru and Sudadri, there are very less difference. And location wise, they are matching both in Mahabharata and Ramayana. So we can identify that whatever is Sudadri is Sadadru in Mahabharata. So up to that much you trace. Later on, there is an interpretation for Mahabharata, like so many people have interpreted it, and then they clearly recognize it Sadadri as Satlaj, because they mentioned about confluence of Satlaj with the Vipash. So both the river have a very clear shape. Two rivers converge into a confluence, etc. is very clear. So whenever Vipash and Satadru is mentioned, probability of it being some other random river is very small. And we have a long term in our tradition. Memory is not very, it's a very stable most of cases. So there are generations of people who know that okay, this river mentioned Sududri is the Shadadru of Mahabharata, and Shadadru of Mahabharata is Satlaj of my lifetime. So this is information that is completely recorded in our tradition, not lost to them. Because thankfully, because even though when it's a very large number of years elapsed, 3300 BC to the end of 1900 BC, but it's not too far. Like for example, that is where I see this is the problem that some other chronologists who locate Rigveda in the 20,000 BC, 25,000 BC, those people need to answer this, because in 20,000 years there will not be any kind of memory like this. Nobody will know like what. See, it's Just think about it. I mean, in any other place, any other name of the river, because in 20,000 years, is good enough for the, you lose complete memory of the civilization. And not only that, within 25,000 years, 20,000, 25,000, the rare shape of the river completely changed to unrecognizable state. Whereas the rivers in 4,000 BC to some river in 4,000 BC, almost 60%, minimum 60% look at similar in 21st century. That much only distortion will happen. So that is why it is also important that chronologically they are closer than what you think. Like it's not 25,000, etc. It's a 3,300 BC. This is another reason for that. It's a very good question. Yeah, and similarly, so just I'm giving an example of.
So, but I do have a debt of gratitude from all of us and all of humanity for Shrikant Talgeri ji and yourself that you compiled this. And you both compiled it, you brought it back, you brought it, you're bringing the reality back to us. So thank you so much. Thank you.
With Vipash, because Vipash is the name in Ṛgveda. Vipasha, just a last Dirga happened in the Mahabharata, and that is now known as Vyas. So three names are not very drastically different. And Vara Prithivya, its name is completely different than Kurukshetra, but definition is same, like between Saraswati and the Shadvati. So because of all these geographical cues, we have enough information to recognize every river mentioned in Ṛgveda and identify it with our current rivers. But you asked me, like some of the few rivers I have freshly identified, which no other researchers have identified. Which is Sahibi River, that is Shifa River, and then the tributaries of Sindhu in the Ladakh region I have identified, and then Sarayu River, because so many researchers have so many other confusing. It was confusing for so many people, including for Shrikantji, which I have identified as the Haro River. So I have mentioned about the symmetry, right? Like two tributaries of Sindhu, that is Gomati and Sarayu, exactly reflected in Ganga as Gomati and Sarayu. So it is a very solid identification. That because that symmetry also is very important. That kind of symmetry is not found in any other identification of Sarayu, like Afghanistan river. Some identified the Sarayu within Afghanistan. I'm not talking about the Sarayu of Rama. It is very clearly mentioned is in the Uttar Pradesh. But I'm talking about the Ṛgvedic Sarayu. So many people have confusingly identified it with Afghanistani river, etc., which is not correct. And now maybe I briefly talk about this Godavari. So same thing has happened to the Godavari river. The Godavari river mentioned in the Ramayana is different from whatever we identify, we recognize as Godavari. The reasons, because it's a subject of my book, Geography of Ramayana. But anybody who understand the dynamics of rivers in Ṛgveda, it will be easy for them to understand, because you see some river names get duplicated based when people migrate. So in case of Saraswati, there was a migration, the mirror image migration to the west and east, because of which the river name Sarayu there in the both. People have migrated from a northern region, that is the north of Madhya Pradesh, the northern Madhya Pradesh region, to South India. So they carried one of the very interesting river named Godavari and assigned it to the largest river in the South India, that is Godavari. So Godavari of today, we have the largest South Indian river, and it is very interesting. It is called the Ganga of South India. And in my analysis in Ramayana, I have shown the real Godavari was a tributary of Ganga. So that is the connection. So the Ramayana Godavari is actually a Ganga tributary. And that memory, because of that, the later tradition have that understanding. Okay.
I see. So it's nothing to do with your what you said in your book, that it's about the gau, the cow.
Yes. That's also there. So see, that is the name of the etymology of the name. So Godavari means that it is a river that where the dana of go, that is cow, take place, or it is a river which is rich in cows. And in the Ramayana, in that river, because it was a Rakshasa dominated region, where everywhere it was a Rakshasas. Only in that small lifeline, that is the rishis started migrating along the Godavari river, because they were on Ganga. So rishis spread along Ganga, and then they migrated southward along the southern tributary of Ganga. So only in that Rakshasa dominated region, only the rishis were living along this river. So the rishis means then obviously they have the gotra, not the cattle. See, the rishi gotra means another meaning is that they have basically a cow shed. Every rishi sustained by cows. So the cows means there is a cow shed, that is called gotra. And so wherever the rishis live, there will be plenty of cows. So that is the reason some of the names, like Gomati is also the name is like that. The river where there are plenty of cows, because the rishis are living. So the da signifies that it is the place where the dana, or the you can exchange of the cows take place. So it's another way of understanding is that the river provides you the cows. The river gives the river gives the dana of the cows. So Godavari. So the river sustains cow economy there. So that is the meaning of the Godavari.
Yes, sir, thank you. And just lastly, on the mention of the Rakshasas, I do know that in Ṛgved, in certain mandalas, we have seen the mention of Rakshasas. So in your analysis, have you kind of shot, kind of been able to identify that where is the abode, or which part is the abode of the Rakshasas? Were they the Harappans? Were they the Gonds? Anything?
Oh yeah, yes. So again, this is in the subject of my second book of geography of Ramayana. So there are two types of Rakshasas mentioned in the basically in the Itihasas, Ramayana and Mahabharata, and Ṛgveda also they mentioned very passingly, but more details coming from the Itihasas. That's why it is subject of my second book. So one type of Rakshasas are like, for example, who are living a life which is not related to Vedic tradition. So their life is like they go on hunting and they find some flesh. So some animals, they eat animals. They burn it into the fire and eat it. So they are hunter-gatherers. So that is the one type of Rakshasas. Second one is that any Kshatriya king who is unruly behavior, even though they are born and brought up in the Vedic tradition, Vedic way, they are declared as a Rakshasa. So basically, by function, by their occupation, both the Rakshasa and Kshatriya are almost same, because Rakshasa don't do Raksha. Raksha means they are doing a protection of a territory, because they are territorial people. So they have a territory. Within that territory, whatever happens, that is there in their control. So they are called Raksha or Rakshasa, like that. It's a positive. It was actually a Asura. Like Asura is a positive term. Like it means life giver, or rich in life, like that. Or Lord. That is it's a honorific. It's like a
Or the one who doesn't have Sura, basically who doesn't have wine. Is that it?
No, that is a later meaning, because the original word Asura was a very positive term. It was used as an epithet for Varuna, for Indra, etc. So it's both the whatever Ṛgvedic devatas also were designated, or they were praised as Asuras.
Yeah.
Lord. They are the lords. And then in the later classical Sanskrit literature, they invented a new word called Sura. And then they say Asura is the opposite of Sura. Because the original word Sura is, Sura means alcohol. But the Devatas, they are actually drinking Soma. And Soma is the opposite of alcohol. Very clearly mentioned in the Ṛgveda. Like the properties of Sura and Soma are mentioned very clearly in the Ṛgveda. Soma is a stimulant. So it will stimulate your brain, sharpen your eyes, etc. Whereas Sura reduce your hearing, numb your brain. That is means it is the alcohol. So if you go follow Rigveda, the term Sura has no the Sura only has a meaning of an alcohol. It doesn't mean Devas. But only in the Puranas you have a new word called Sura. It is post Rigvedic terminology. Very late and very new term. Because the entire word Asura become completely reused for defining the enemies of the Devas. A new word required, and that new word is Sura. But the Sura, original Sura in Rigveda is alcohol. And mostly are whatever the opposite people, that is the enemies of Indra, were drinking Sura. And even it's a very interesting story in the Rigveda where Namuchi asked Indra to drink Sura, like for just taste it, not like that. So that habit came later. So I would say the Western, they were drinking alcohol, and then someday they said for the Bharata kings, why don't you taste it very nice? And that is how they got the habit of drinking Sura. It was a Asura drinkage.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I had one question. You were mentioning about Gandharva being the older name for Gandhara, right?
Yeah,
and is it anywhere related to the people like the demigods where we call Gandharva? Are they related to the region who are staying in that region? And how did they get associated with music and demigodhood?
That's a very long process. See, why we recognize like the Gandharva as Gandhara is because Rigveda mentioned the locations, exactly the same location, like Kubha River and the neighborhood of that Kubha River, that is Kabul River and its neighborhood, as the Gandharva territory. So the same place is mentioned in the Ramayana and Mahabharata as the Gandhara. Even Ramayana retains the older name Gandharva in the Uttarakhanda, but also have the name Gandhara. So Ramayana is in between. So it used both Gandharva as well as Gandhara. But in Mahabharata is completely only the region is mentioned as Gandhara, and Shakuni and Gandhari, all people are mentioned as Gandhara people. But the same people are mentioned in the Rigveda as Gandharva. Even in Ramayana, also the same people are mentioned as Gandharva. And that is why, like in Ramayana, like Sri Rama sent Bharata, his younger brother, to go there in the Gandharva region, which is a neighborhood to the Kekaya Janapada. And it's exactly the same thing. Like Kekaya is somewhat in the middle of Pakistan, and to the west of the Kekaya is the Gandharva region. Exactly same thing is mentioned, like go and fight with the Gandharvas to the west of Kekaya and defeat them. And Bharata goes there and established Taksha and Takshashila and this
Pushkar, I think.
Pushkaravata. The name is Pushkaravata is used in Ramayana, but later Pushkaravata, like that.
Yes.
Two places are established by the sons of Bharata, Taksha and Pushkara. So this geography-wise, they are both identical. Now the second question, how they became. So one reason is that the Gandharva, that the people were very, they were very much skilled in music, dance, etc. And even we can say Indian music, classical music originated in the Gandhara region. And that is why they were associated with singing and dancing, etc. And how they become demigods. So for example, Indra is the primary god in the Rigveda, right? And any Indra worshipping king also got associated with Indra. So even like whatever activities of the Vodasa, Sudas, all these are all actually slowly they were attributed to Indra. So Indra is both the divinity as well as absorbed some historical activities of historical kings, historical Ṛgvedic kings who praise him. So in a later period, the Bharatas conquered the Gandharva region, and all the Gandharvas become subordinate to the Bharata kings. And this situation is reflected in the Puranas, like wherein say that Gandharvas serve the Devatas. They become, see, this is after your conquest, the Gandhara region is conquered. Of course, that is what reflected in the Ramayana when Bharata. But many other Bharata kings have conquered the Gandharva region. So these people who are highly skilled in singing and dancing, even archery, they are also very much skilled in battle, etc. They came under the Bharata king's rule. Many kings, Bharata kings conquered that region. And the Bharata kings are the activities of Bharata kings is almost attributed to Indra. So then, but what happens? Gandharvas becomes kind of a demigod, and Indra becomes the god. Indra and Devas are gods. Gandharvas are demigods. That kind of a equation came in. That is how the Gandharva become equated to a demigod status. Second one is the ancestral worship. So, like any ancestor, very famous ancestors got deified. Like that, the Gandharvas also, so whoever is considered as the Gandharvas who are skilled in art and music, when they die, they are considered as a spirit. We have ancestral worship. So then these Gandharvas are invoked as Devas. No, you can invoke the Gandharvas. So their ancestral spirit will come to you, etc. So that things happen. So that is why in very late literature, like in the Puranas, etc., Gandharvas are also natural spirits, spirit beings. So they can be invoked like Devatas. We can invoke the Gandharvas. Even Yakshas also can be invoked. Rakshasas also can be invoked because they become like after they become not part of terrestrial life, and they'll give up their life, they become spirit beings. And then when spirit beings can be invoked as divinities, even so many ancestors are worshipped like Muttappan. All this, they exist. They lived in some certain period of time, and then they are no more. But they are able to, like, people are like capable of invoking them as spirit beings. Even ask questions, get answers. All these things happen subsequently.
Got it. Thank you. And I had one more question. The word Saraswati has Saras in it, which also would mean lakes, right?
Yeah.
Is there any connection with Saraswati with lakes as well, sir?
Yeah. The word meaning, etymological meaning of Saraswati is the river that flows through the lakes. So it connects so many lakes. The river Saraswati is a river that flows through many lakes. So that's the word meaning itself, Saraswati. The river that contains many lakes. And there is another etymology. The word Sara means flow. So Saraswati means the flow. It's a similar. It's a kind of a generic term for a river which flows, water which flows. That is Saraswati. So two etymologies are there. One is the river with a lot of lakes. That is Saraswati. And that is even more correct because Drishatvati is called a river with a lot of stones. Drisha is stone. So a river containing more lakes. The Saraswati contains a lot of lakes. Drishatvati contains a lot of stones. So that two names are like that. But even Sara, the word itself means flow. And that way also it can be applied to a river, Saraswati. Even Sarayu also means that, like two meanings. One is a river that originating from a lake. The last word U, that signifies origin. So Sarayu is a lake origin river. The river that originated, or lake origin. So the river that originates from a river. Again, it has got the root Sara actually, that is flow. Again, it's another, Sarayu is again a name which is a very standard name for a river, which is like a flow of water. Apaya is another. Apa means water. Apaya, again, it's a flowing water, because Apaya is again an older river name. And if you read my book, you will know that Apaya was originally or older course of Saraswati, and when it changed course, that old, because there is no other flow in it, and so that is what Apaya. That is a very old river name, Apaya. And this is because of these names. Even Sindhu means a large water body. So that is why the Sindhu is also used for ocean, because the river Sindhu is very wide. So anybody who is standing on the shore of Sindhu, they feel like they are looking at an ocean. That much big, river Sindhu is very big. So the Sindhu name is applied to ocean also. and to that river also, that is the river Sindhu. And that is also why sometimes the Sindhu name is applied for a generic river also. For example, occasionally the river Sindhu is used for designating Saraswati, like that. That I will, because it's a kind of a nuance that I will discuss in subsequent chapters. Because in the fourth mandala you encountered the word Sindhu, but it is referring to some other rivers, not the actual Sindhu that you get from the context section. So that nuance we will discuss in the subsequent chapters.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. And I think we will see you next week.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Jijitji, for your lecture for today and for describing the rivers, which are also mentioned in the Ṛgveda. So we'll wind up for today's session with Shanti Mantra. Om Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.